Okay. So here we are. Here we are for our new knowledge, and rain nor sleet nor snow nor flood will stop our meeting. So thank you to the Government Center for letting us host new knowledge here, and we will let you know about the next one, but it looks like we'll actually have our conference room back up and running for the next new knowledge that's scheduled. So without further ado, I think some of you may have already seen Cindy Hagman. Cindy is now the marketing director for Bristol Compressors, and she did an earlier new knowledge class for us on LinkedIn. So Cindy and Sandy are our technology gurus. And
the dynamic duo.
Cindy and Sandy, that's right.
Yes, and so without further ado, I'm going to introduce Cindy Hagman.
Thanks, Kathy. Welcome, everyone, and welcome everyone online. Today, we're going to talk about developing a successful public relations plan. And how many people here have their own business or are in charge of PR for a business? All right, that's just about everybody. Because if you didn't raise your hand, I was going to say, well, you're in the wrong class. You need time the McDonald's is around the corner. Everybody brought food. So anyway, we're going to talk about today because of business owners are always, let's start a business. I'm good at this. Let's start a business. Or maybe somebody's great at baking, and people are always, oh, you really need to start a business. They start a business, but really the only thing that they know how to do is probably that skill that they have. So there's things like marketing and public relations and how to get the word out about their business that a lot of people don't know how to do or do well. And so they have to learn for themselves, or they have to bring in people, which costs money, to help them out. But today we're going to talk a little bit about some things you can do. And feel free, I'm very relaxed and very laid back when I present, so please, if you want to ask me a question, just raise your hand, or welcome, and just interrupt and say, hey, what about this, and we'll talk about it. And if it gets too long, we'll table it and move on, obviously. But you made it just in time, and you guys went to Wendy's. You were a little bit different than the rest of the group. I'm just pointing that out. And I've got to lean over and do the little remote thing kind of manually, so I apologize for that. So everybody should have handouts, and I love handouts, so before you leave today, I've got even more for you, stuff about social media and content calendars and creation and stuff, so that I want to share with you as well. So today, let's talk about what you're doing. So if you've already got a business, or you're already working for a nonprofit, or you're already in the trenches, like many of us are, what are you currently doing? So before you really start developing your PR plan, you need to look back and see what you're doing, because you'd be surprised at some of the stuff that you may be doing every single day is part of PR. And that's something a lot of people don't realize. We talked about networking a few minutes ago. Every time you go to a networking event, every time you go to something like this where you meet people and you have an opportunity to talk to people or exchange business cards, you're actually doing PR for your business. I see a lot of people in here who have either a name tag on or they have their logos on their shirts. Sorry, I didn't mean to touch my microphone. That is another way to get the word out about your company. So if you have a company and obviously you need a logo, we're not going to talk about that today, but that's something that just walking out that door with that logo on your chest, or putting that name tag on when you go someplace and shaking somebody's hand, that's PR, and that's promoting your business. And I see a lot of that in the room today, and that's really good. The other thing I wanted to tell you, and this is something that a lot of people do not know, this is just a marketing tidbit that you can file it away or throw it away, whatever you want to do. When you take your little magnetic name tag that you have, you should always put it on your left side. And that way when you shake someone's hand, your arm naturally goes right up and they can look right at your name tag.
Your left side or your right side?
Right side, sorry.
Okay.
I'm left-handed, so I'm very like messed up. My left, your right. Sorry, just kidding. but that's just something that a lot of people don't know, and it's just one of those things that when you do a lot of marketing, and it's just something. But everybody, but when they put their logos on, they put them on this side so that you can put your name tag on the other side. But I do like logo stuff, and everybody's stuff looks really nice in here, by the way. Good job. So some of those things you're already doing. You may not even have a PR plan, but if you're doing that, you're already doing a few things. So the other thing, like when you decide what you want to do, what I like people, especially when they're in a small local environment, look and see what contacts you already have with the media. So that is very, very helpful. So a lot of local, regional areas have newspapers, or they have local magazines or business publications. And if you don't know those people, you might want to reach out and try to get to know those people. And they're usually typically you can meet them at events or chamber or things like that. I'm guessing it's the same way around here because I'm new to this area, but I'm guessing that pretty much you can do that. Social media. We're going to talk about social media today, and that's kind of my forte, and that's I love social media. So people that don't like social media, I get a lot of naysayers, oh, it's a waste of time. But I have so many success stories and so many wonderful things. But social media is well worth investing in. Think about what news that you have to share about your company, about your industry, about the people that work with you or work for you. And also, it's very, very good. If you are not a nonprofit, it's good to kind of partner with some nonprofits so that you can kind of share some of their news. And because people don't want to see press releases or social media posts just about selling your content or your things that you're trying to sell. They want to see that you have a little bit of personality outside of what you're doing. So, and I should have brought, but like they were saying, I work for Bristol Compressors, and I'm new there, so I'm learning the compressor industry. But I've been in marketing for a really long time, and I've worked at Eastman Chemical Company and did marketing there, and I've done economic development and all kinds of different things. And when I came to work at Bristol, they had started some social media. They have a LinkedIn company profile, which they should. And then they have a Facebook page, and they have a Twitter account. And those are really kind of tricky. How do you get followers, and how do you get people interested in compressors outside of the industry? So I'm still doing some research, but we partner with a lot of other people. Like we partner with the Southwest Virginia Alliance for Manufacturing. So when they have things going on, I make sure that I post things that I see that Sandy's got going on, and different things in the area. As I get to know people and as I get to know nonprofits and things, I'll be sharing things like that too. That's why if you came in late and you didn't hand me up your business card, be sure to hand it up my way. I'd love to have it in front of me and I love to know who my audience is. And at the time I may not remember everybody, but later on we can connect on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever, and we'll hopefully get acquainted. So if you have a website, and not everybody has a website these days because social media is so prevalent. I don't think it's always necessary. But if you do have one, make sure that you have the ability, or you have a company that can help you do some updates on it so that it's just not stagnant. And really, if somebody's going to find you by Googling they're going to find you probably because you have social media presence, probably not because you necessarily have a website, unless it's totally optimized and you've spent some money on it. So right now, I did touch on this one a little bit. How do you currently get in touch in front of your target audience? And that's by going out, and that's by being in the community, and that's by being involved in other things besides just going to work and sitting behind your desk, which is always fun, right? We love to get work done. So I like to put everything down on a plan. When I'm writing a plan, what do I want out of this? At the end of the day, what do I want to happen? So, you've got to talk about you've got to talk about your messaging. We talked about that just a little bit. You know, what do you want to tell people? And this is in a press release, or this is also on social media. Social media being so prevalent because it's real time and you can post every day if you want, and you know that's a whole other topic as well. And who is your audience? So are your audience, like your audience, I'm guessing, is people like myself. They not necessarily big corporations, but do you do big corporations too? Do you? Okay, so because Sherry has handed me her business card, and her company's called Threadables, and she does custom quilting and clothing alterations, which, gosh, I've got so many things I need altered. I'm like, yay, yay, yay. And yes, and but the thing is, like, her audience is going to be totally different from the audience at Bristol Compressors, obviously, that I'm looking for, because we're looking for large air conditioning companies to buy our compressors to put them into their units. So you and I are not competitors whatsoever. So what my target audience is going to be is probably not going to be anything within yours. However, it doesn't mean there won't be some crossover, because I'll use an example. Somebody who might come in and get alterations from you might be somebody who works for a big company who I could be in front of. So things do kind of mix and mingle. So I also have one of my things that really kind of get under my skin is when people, especially when they're talking about social media or they talk about like LinkedIn, and if somebody tries to connect with them and they go, I will never do business with them, or I would never connect with them, because I'm always like, why? Why would you never connect with them? You know, why do you think you would never do business, or why do you think they could never help you? Because I can tell you, I mean, I have lived in 10 different states. My husband's retired Navy submarine commander. We've lived all over the place, and I've been in marketing the whole time, and because I've been in marketing, I've been able to get a job pretty easily and get into the communities where we work. But I have taken those contacts with me because of things like LinkedIn and Facebook, and you would be shocked at how often someone will contact me from Norfolk, Virginia, and say, hey, you know, can you help with this, or can you do this, because of something that they see that I'm in this area. And I'm just saying, don't ever discount someone just because you think, well, they're not in my industry. So be a little bit more open-minded. Now, you know, sometimes you don't have to connect with everybody, but don't just discount it because you don't think that. So, brand awareness. When you're building your brand, you need to really stop and think about who you are and what your brand is. So that's important. Your brand, very important to you, because you are your brand when you walk out the door. And that, you know, you probably don't have a lot of people work for you, I'm assuming. Yeah, so you are your brand, walking out the door. And if you work for a big company like I do, everybody who works there is part of the brand. So it's hard, and there's a lot of things, but you have to decide what you want project to the outside world. And when you do PR, are you going to be promoting products or services? Maybe both, whatever, depends on what you do. So, you know, you could be doing both, possibly. You could possibly, if you made something, you could sell that product, or you could just do your services. So you obviously want to generate more business for yourself. So everybody is on doing business with social media to generate sales, to gain prospects, or to gain leads, right? I mean, that's really at the end of the day what you're trying to do. And it's about networking. It's about seeing who you can get in front of and who needs your product or service. It's also about timing. So I will tell you that, because just because someone doesn't need what you have today, tomorrow's another day, and next week is another day. I mean, Sandy and Kathy didn't know that they were going to need someone to help get rid of the flood out of their building a few days ago. So, you know, when you need someone, you might need them right away. That's a bad example. I'm sorry, bring that up, but
Very painful.
it is painful, and I've been through it. I used to work at a credit union, and we flooded like that in the middle of the night and had to go and shovel everything out, and we had the people there cleaning everything. It was a mess. So the other thing that you need to do when you do your objectives is to establish short-term and long-term goals about what you want to do. So, and they could be the same, just stretched out, or they could be completely different. So you need to really think about that. And sometimes it's good to sit down with somebody who's not even in your company or in your industry and just over lunch chat with them about some of this stuff. And if you're starting a company, you could say to someone, what do you see my brand as? Or what do you think I should, and just pick their brain a little bit. And hopefully it's someone who knows a little bit about marketing. But sometimes it doesn't have to be. They could just be a customer or know your product. Any questions? Okay, this is one of the most important things I think that you can do when you're establishing what you want to do for PR and what your brand is research your industry. And it's so easy to do that now, right? It's so easy. 20 years ago, we didn't have a way to do that very easily. But now you can just go to Google and put in, whatever you want to research. And I say in here what is the norm and what is legal. And the reason why I put that in is because I've worked before in the financial industry, and they have so many stipulations on what can be put out there for social media. And so if you're in any of those type of industries where it's highly regulated, you need to be very, very aware and very mindful and know what you can put out there. You can't make promises, and just be very mindful of that. And look and see what your competitors are doing. I think that's one of the most important things that you can do, is go out there and see what they're doing or what they're not doing. That's the other thing. If you have an idea, and you go out there and see if anybody else is doing it. And I don't mean just locally. I mean, look at your competitors in California and New York and Minnesota and different places like that, just to kind of have an idea of what's going on. And I like to target messaging. So if you can figure out who your audience is. So when you're first starting up with social media, and I'm probably walking out of the screen, I apologize. When you're first starting up with social media, you're going to be guessing at who your audience is. But once you get going with it, you have analytics that will tell you who your audience is. So you can go in the back end and you can look and you say, you know what, the majority of the people on my Facebook page are women between 35 and 55 years old. Then you know your audience, and you're like, okay, so I'm going to put a couple recipes out there every once in a while, or I'm going to, do things that they might be interested in. If you know that it's, men between 45 and 65, then you're going to have a different, you may want to put a fishing joke up there once in a while or something like that. I mean, maybe the women might like that too. I don't know. But the other thing is, if you do a post on social media, you can go back and look and see what actually was looked at and what was popular and what wasn't, and what I won't do that again. But hey, this one went a long way. I find when I share public interest from other sources, that it seems to go further, especially from nonprofits. So just kind of keep that in mind too, that when I share a story, a good, from the Humane Society or from, something like that, and it's obviously stuff that I'm interested in too, but it's also things that other people can look at it and go, wow, I really like that. And and don't forget about trends and things that are going on. So I'll tell you, in December, right before the Star Wars movie came out, everything was Star Wars, right? And I work for a compressor company, and I'm like, what can I do here? So I actually took 2 compressors in Photoshop, and I photoshopped them and made one look like Darth Vader, and made one, what the other one look like? It was just regular. And I put a little caption and put, I have something to tell you, Luke, I'm your father. And it was from And it was just a, kind of a little compressor joke, and I'd only been working there for a couple of weeks, and I sent it to my boss, and I was like, can I put this out there? And he's like, yeah, that's really cute, and that's really clever. That got shared so many times and got forwarded and liked, and it was just a little something that I kind of came up with, because when I looked at the compressor, I was like, gosh, it looks like Darth Vader. It just kind of came to me. And so I was a little bit like, oh, let me jump on this bandwagon. However, I was actually a little apprehensive too, because I know that there's copyright and things like that. So I have a daughter who is a designer for Kohl's Corporation, and she actually worked on the George Lucas team for Star Wars and designed all the stuff for Star Wars for Kohl's. So I sent it to her first, and I said, what do you think? Do you think I'll get in trouble for this? And she said, I don't think you'll be a blip on the radar, basically, don't worry. I'm like, what? I want to be important, But anyway, so, but do be mindful of that. You don't want to obviously infringe on anybody's copyright or anything. And I was just kind of playing around. It wasn't that big of a deal, but it was just something. So be mindful of trends. So I put that out the week Star Wars was coming out, because I wanted to do something, and it was just a test before I came on board. Our social media at Bristol had been kind of dead for a few months because they hadn't had anybody working it. So it was just kind of a test to see if anybody was, hey, anybody out there? Anybody paying attention? And there was. So look at trends. Do y'all remember? Oh, yes, sir.
Sorry, quick question. When you're talking about reaches and reposts, at what number do you consider it that you've done something significant? Is it a couple of hundred people reached, 1,000 people?
It depends. You know what? Depends on how many followers you have. So it's going to be relative to whatever you are. When you're first starting out, and I think start small and don't expect millions of people to come in, or even thousands. But if you can get 20 people to like something or share it, then it goes a little bit further. So do you have social media now that you guys use?
We've got about 1,200 followers right now.
You've got a great group then to start with. So out of 1,200, you can double that easily with a good post, or have, one of the, if we're going to talk about social media for a second, I'll tell you, one of the best things you can do on Facebook and on LinkedIn is once you share it on your company page, once you put it on your post-it, go ahead and share it on your personal page as well. And a lot of people don't do that, and encourage your employees to do it as well. People just don't even think about it, but it's like that will just go so far. You'd be surprised. And, it's a simple thing to do, but do it. But it just depends on, one of the things we'll talk about is kind of some of the goals that you want to set. But and it depends on what your background is and how many followers you have to be able to say how many you want to reach for. So you might be better to go with a percentage, or if you've got 1,200 followers, if even half of them or even a quarter of them you engage with on a post, that's probably really, really good, and then let it go. Question?
Yes. Driving them to your business page on Facebook, that's a bit of a challenge.
Yes.
How do you get them there?
It's a big challenge. So you have to be active on there, or find somebody who can work your page who is active. And one of the easiest things to do when you're first starting out is to invite your own group of friends to like your page. And that's a real easy process to do. And then from there, other people can see it. But you've got to start posting some relative content, and don't just sell to people too. We can all be sold to, right? Let's face it, we're sold to every single day. But, post some things that are fun, post some things that are informative, post some things that people want to see and want to come back to and want to subscribe to.
But the big thing is to let your friends that you already have, ask them to like your page.
Absolutely. It's really easy to do that too. You can just invite them. It pops up if you're the administrator on your Facebook page. I think it's a little bit that's how you can do it without having to pay for it. If you want to, there's plenty of ways to do it now by by doing ads too and having people find it. So I'll tell you another way. You can do contests, and you just need to check the legalities of that. But people love things to be given away. In fact, I'm going to give away some things today too before you leave. See? See?
I can't find my business card.
Yeah, I'll be getting some business cards now, won't I?
Oh, thank you. There you go.
See? If you give some things away or you do some campaigns on Facebook, and you got to look at the legalities. There are legalities on Facebook on how to do but it gets a lot of engagement. It really, really does. So look that up and research it.
But when you're hunting, when you're really hunting to get people onto that page, I think you want to target a certain audience, and that's where I'm really going with my questions. I'm not looking for anybody, and I'm not looking necessarily for everybody.
So what kind of business do you do?
I'm in the real estate business.
I would think you're looking for everybody.
Right. Well, yes and no. But it's a question.
You're looking for a demographic within that has money, that has this, that has that. So you can set those things up on the back end whenever you do a campaign, and your campaign will target that demographic of people.
Is that a paid campaign you're referring to?
Probably.
But
But look and see. But it's not as expensive as you think it would be because you can limit what you spend on it.
Yeah.
Really,
Pay
it's
by click. If somebody clicks on your page, then it's like a cent maybe,
yeah, it's.
and it can go up to $1.
And you can set the perimeter. So
Yeah.
look it up and see, or do the research on it, or find someone who is very knowledgeable with it, who can help you with it. It is a lot more affordable than people think, especially for if you have a real estate page, and you're obviously going to want people in this area too. So that.
You can set parameters up so it could be regional.
Absolutely. Age,
Be a runner. We do.
Interest.
when we do
Yeah.
races, it could be a runner. If you know you got a biking competition and you want to hit the bikers, then that's who you hit with Facebook, is those individuals that have said that they are a biker. And so you can target those audience groups based on
It's fascinating.
what they've already stated is their preference.
They know so much about us, by the way.
It's almost scary, really, how much they know about us.
I know in some of our cases with the state, we're dabbling in this type of social media, Facebook and ads and stuff. But I think we do everything from a couple $100 maybe to $400, and you can get X number of people hit in that time period. So it really just depends on what your
Okay. You're referring to
characteristics.
pay-per-click, PPC?
Click like a like, and if it goes all the way through, if it's a click through all the way to your page, that's different. That's I don't know what exactly that's called, but anyway, that's a higher price. You pay a higher price than people who just like it and move on.
Go behind your page in your analytics part, and it'll explain all that to you.
Thank you.
It's
That's-
very you will be
I've never been
shocked.
back
Yeah,
there.
there's
And do some things without paying for it first. Test out the waters and see.
You can even go in there and see where the people are from. And I found, like, they're not all from the US.
Oh, right.
I mean, some of those, I really don't understand why they're there, but
I know. I agree. But at the same time, they might be moving to the area, or so with you being in real estate, you might want to think regionally, but you also might want to think.
I have other avenues that are already there.
Yeah.
It was just to figure out how to go in, and I know who I'm looking for, and being able to establish.
And it also has income levels and all kinds of stuff too. So you'll be able to. Good luck on that, but we can talk about that too. I mean, you're welcome. The print media. I wanted to touch on print media because I do think that, especially in an area like this where this is still a regional and local area, you do have some great resources here that you might want to do ads in. You might want to do press releases if something really good happens, such as an anniversary or a big grand opening, or make sure that it's newsy. Don't just send a press release in think of what the person on the other side received it. It's like, well, that's no big deal. I mean, you've got to make sure that what you're putting out there, someone else wants to receive, and it has to, if they're going to bother to print it in their publication, it's got to be something kind of newsy. So think about that, because I've heard a lot. I send in press releases, I send this, and it never gets printed. And I'm like, well, what are you sending in? Let's look at it and let's talk about, because I wouldn't print that either. So let's just be sure it's newsworthy. So this is where you really need to look in, and you'll know some of these right off the bat, but do some Googling and see what else is out there, and think about not only here, but down in the Tri-Cities as well, because we really are, I live down in the Tri-Cities, so we get a lot of the news from up here. And people don't think twice about jumping in their car and just going down that way. So think about all those type of publications and what's available here and in the industry that you're in. If you're going to do an actual ad, look at what the cost of it is and think about budgeting. If you're going to do an annual thing, it's usually cheaper to get in front of a sales rep and say, you know what, I want to do 6 ads a year or 4 ads a year, and they'll give you a little bit of a discount versus calling them 4 times a year. So think about that too. And if you want to do ads, are you able to design them, or do you have someone design them for you? And a lot of places, a lot of newspapers, a lot of publications have designers on staff. Utilize them, and even if you have to pay a little bit, it's worth it if you don't know what you're doing. One of the worst things to do is to open up a book or something and see somebody's homemade ad in there. That's just, again, that's your brand, and that's a reflection of your company. So make sure that it's done professionally, and there's no typos or anything like that in it too. Big, that's really bad. Build your list of media contacts so that you know who to be in front of or who you need to send things to. And if you don't know the sales reps or from the different publications, then reach out to them, and they'll be happy to talk to you, I'm sure. And if you want to write a press release, look it up and make sure you're writing it properly. That's one of the things that people don't do that much anymore, and you kind of get away from doing it. But there's still a protocol and a procedure for doing it. And so just be careful when you're doing that. You want to do it right, and you don't want typos. You want it professional. Everything, and you need to have the information and your complete contact information in it. So social media, we've already touched on that, and but I think that it's really important for just about every business to probably have a Facebook page. I can't think of any reason. You may not get any business from it, but it provides a lot of just exposure for you and opportunities for you to show a little bit of personality, because things that are accepted on Facebook versus if you just have a LinkedIn company profile, which I'm a huge proponent for LinkedIn, and I teach LinkedIn, so I love LinkedIn, but it's very limiting what you should put on that, and you really do need to stay focused on business there. Which on Facebook, if you wanted to, put a cuddly kitten or something on there, it wouldn't be a big deal. You might get a lot of likes, by the way, for things like that.
So is that a suggestion I need to write down?
You probably, cuddly kitten. Google real estate puppy or something like that. You could probably find a picture of a puppy holding up a real estate sign or something. Dogs and cats, oh my goodness, they get so many likes and shares and comments. It's unbelievable.
Pictures and videos are always the higher ones.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Pictures and video are always, they're more attractive, they always get more traffic.
Well, and the other thing is, if your demographics, the younger generation like all that fast flash.
That younger generation. Goodness gracious. You're putting all of us in the younger generation, or the older generation, and talking about the...
Yeah, well, I want to bring that up.
Just ruined my
Yeah, I bring it
day.
up Just because,
You're right.
you know, you don't, we went to a training session with police school, and the instructor was talking that we are in a generation now where you've got 5 generations out there. And the younger generation doesn't act and operate necessarily all the time like the older generation.
Thank
But
goodness.
at the same time, there are ties that the younger generation feels that the elder generation has. Baby boomers are different from, quote, the latchkey generation, which is my generation, Generation X.
Latchkey?
Latchkey. We were the kids left at home while parents made their millions. And so you get through all this, but at certain things, there are characteristics in each of these generations. But in the younger generation in particular, they like things that pop up and keep moving. They've been watching video games and everything else, so everything's got to keep moving. So that's, but a lot of folks, if it's a beautiful picture, it doesn't matter what age group, they like it.
So puppies and.
Back to the puppies again.
And moving on. Moving on.
I know, but you're absolutely right too, and that's why knowing your audience is really important. So if you know you're targeting the younger generation, the latchkey kids or whoever they are, then you're going to look for things that they're going to open and they're going to engage with. If you're baby boomers, then you're
He could be one of my children.
he's part of that younger generation.
See, some of our folks that are joining in cannot hear those questions, so if you.
Oh, to repeat the questions?
If you would, thank you.
Sorry about
Okay,
that.
going forward.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so with social media, and I've got some little charts and stuff here about that will help you decide which social media platform will be best for you. But I do think Facebook is probably across the board, and it's easy, simple, free, unless you do your paid ads. So it's also the least expensive form of public relations, but it's the most time consuming. So you've got to know it and you've got to understand it. And if you don't, I highly encourage you to find someone who does, even if it's somebody who is a grandchild or a nephew or a college student or high school student that can come in and help you. You'd be surprised at how it would be, if you hired a high school student to do some social media work for you 10 hours a week, that is something that they could put on their resume that they've done. So think about that too. It would help you, it would help them. Obviously you have to sit with them and go, this is the kind of stuff I do want shared, and you can also do it where you can approve things before it gets posted. So think about things like that too, because that younger generation needs to be employed as well, and we need to teach them some skills. Yes?
And just from our experience,
Our experience from, where do you work?
Of my company, Fetching Apparel, we're a new startup company, we're over in the small business incubator. But Instagram, if you're trying to target that younger audience, they are moving like in droves from Facebook to Instagram.
Oh, they hate
Right?
Facebook. They
Yeah.
won't even be on there anymore.
Facebook's becoming
I have a whole,
advertising and all that.
I have a bunch of stuff here that breaks down every single thing and tells you which one you should be on and what audiences. So make sure you pick one of these up before you leave. I'm not going to give them out to you now because you'll be reading those. And,
It's very simplistic, it's actually a lot simpler, but like you just basically posting a picture.
Thank you.
And so we find that we're growing actually even faster on that.
Instagram?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It's-
Yeah, Instagram is photos, so you have to really. There's your puppy and kitten photos. But it's on your. It's a mobile device as well, and that's the other thing is like it's. I can't remember what the statistic is, but it's like 90% of people who are on social media are on their mobile devices on it.
Let's come back to Instagram just for a second, if I may. It is just a photograph, that's all it is, and you're posting that.
Pretty much. You can put some words underneath it, but
Right, but does it automatically, can you set it up so it posts to Twitter or LinkedIn or wherever
You
you
can
want
have
it
it
to
linked to
go?
your Twitter and Facebook, and some people put the picture up and maybe put the hashtag, et cetera. Yes. So yes, you can.
It's just a photo on Instagram, and you can put some words underneath it, and you can put a photo of a beautiful sunset, and you could say, perfect way to end my day, or something like that. People follow you, and then they can go on and click a little heart to like the page, or they can actually even make comments to it. And if you do get into hashtags, like what Sandy was talking about, is you can actually marry your Instagram to your Facebook. So sometimes, and you're talking about the younger people, my 4 kids, for instance, are all big onto Instagram and hardly ever go on Facebook anymore because all the old people are on there. So that would be me. Yeah. And I remember in 2007 when I first got on Facebook, my daughter was in high school, my youngest, and she's like, oh, all these old people getting on Facebook. You know, I was like, oh, I was a lot younger back then.
Instagram also has an option where you can do a 15-second video, but do it in snippets. So I can see where with real estate, you could almost take it, you know, a couple of seconds of the front, a couple of seconds of different rooms. It'll stitch it together as a 15-second video. Then you upload that and you've got a house.
And you can search on Instagram and see what your competitors are, not necessarily competitors, but what other real estate people are doing. So you can kind of see, yeah.
Oh, okay, let's go on over to Pinterest then.
Do you know what Pinterest is? Do you know what Pinterest is?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I haven't figured out, looks like a storage place to me, but it's it's more private. I mean, they share,
Yeah.
but it's a more private environment. Is that correct?
You set up boards and you pin pictures to your boards, and they're all categorized. You can make private boards, but if you're trying to sell houses, you could post, you know, pictures on your board of houses in certain price ranges or areas or something like that. Pinterest is very aesthetical. I mean, when you sit in front of Pinterest, you're wanting to get stimulated by seeing a photograph of a beautiful home or a beautiful dress or, you know, something that is...
You're looking for something specific when you go into Pinterest.
Yes, ideas. Like, I go to Pinterest for when I'm doing an event. When my daughter got married a year and a half ago, we were doing a lot of her centerpieces and her stuff. We went to Pinterest and got all of our ideas for that. And we set up boards and threw them all in there, and we could share them with each other. We made them private, but shared them with the people that wanted to see it. But when you're doing it for promotion, people can search for something and your board could come up. That's how they find you. And then they repin it.
Because I've used it for my recipes.
Yes.
Backyard designs and things like that, but I've never really used it much as a search tool.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, I was gonna say, Pinterest generates more sales than any of the other social channels, because when people go to Pinterest, they're going looking for something.
Yep.
So they already have that business card or their credit card out, versus if I'm going to Twitter, you know,
Yeah.
I'm looking for gossip. If I'm going to Facebook, I wanna see what friends and families do, and it's the same way with Instagram. But Pinterest generates more revenue than any of the other social channels.
Right, and that's why there's a lot of stores, a lot of retail. They're all on Pinterest now, putting ladies' outfits together, and oh, I want those boots. Click, click, click. Like Sandy said, you pull your credit card out, and you've got those boots, and they're at your door in a couple of days. So it's that simple, and that's what Pinterest does. It gives you ideas. So. You know, there's a lot of realtors on Pinterest, so I think you could go on there and look around and see too what's on there. So you got to have content, hire help if you need it. How often do you post? And you know, I always encourage people to post ahead of time if they can schedule it. So if you use like HubSpot or Falcon Suite or something like that, you can schedule everything out. I'm big on content calendars, and I'm going to give you a few things to kind of help you with that too, because I think that if you're going to be serious about this, that you've got to sit down for the whole year and kind of get an idea in your head of what you're going to post and when you're going to post it. And I don't think you need to post every day. I'm not one of those people who at 3 o'clock you should post this. That's not, now, there's a lot of opinion on that. I'm just not that type of person that thinks that it's that important. But you need to know who your audience is and when they're on, so that you know when you should be posting things and when they can see it. So, that's why you may not, if your audience is young mothers, they're probably not going to be on there too much when their kids are first getting home from school, which 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock or whatever. But maybe after dinner, after they get their kids in bed, might be the time when they're going to be in there. So if you're kind of targeting them, that might be, when you post something for them. So know what your audience is so that you can know when to post. And when you do post something and you look at your engagement levels, then well, that was probably a good time and that was a good article, or that was a success. Post something and it doesn't get any engagement, might want to think about probably not posting at 9 o'clock in the morning. It probably wasn't a good time. But with everybody being on mobile, when my kids were little, we didn't have anything like this. But, you could sit in the carpool lane while you're waiting for your kids to come out, and you're probably browsing. When you've got your kid at the dentist, you're probably sitting there browsing. So there's exceptions to just about everything on there. So that's why when I look at content calendars, bless you, and I look and I think, posting exact times, I think it has to depend on what works for you. And but I definitely think you should post ahead of time, and content calendars are so important. So when you, we'll go over this, but this is one of the best ones I've found. And you'll want to take one of these home because it breaks down each month and what the holidays are for each month. And it tells you, and this is for 2016, so it'll tell you, it gives you the accurate date. So you could go ahead and say, well, you know what, Cinco de Mayo is May 5th. I know that's coming up. So you could go ahead and actually schedule a cute Cinco de Mayo post now that will automatically go on May 5th. So you post it ahead of time. So I think things like this are really important to know, just your basic holidays and maybe a few other things. And then I've got this, which gives you an example of how I've done social media calendars where you can put your Facebook post may not be the same as your Twitter post that day as you're going through it. So if you've got the same followers, you might want to be mindful of, do you want to repeat your content? Yes?
When you're doing the contact calendar, you're trying to post ahead of time. There is a way to kill that, correct? If something goes wrong?
Oh, yes!
Just checking later.
Yes. So if the world ends between now and Cinco de Mayo and you don't want that post to go out, yes, you can go. Absolutely. And that's that's another beauty about social media, is that you can control every aspect of it. And so what I always tell people is to do your content calendars, post as many things as you can ahead of time, but then watch your trends. Because when things come up, do y'all remember a few years ago the whole thing about what color is this dress? Do you remember that? Where they had the gold, was it gold and what was it? Gold and white and black and white, it was everywhere. So if somebody had a company and they did not jump on that bandwagon with that, they're crazy, because they could have done anything and thrown it out there, and said, hey, talk about color, what is this? Or, just play with it. When you see something like that, and if you get a Twitter account, and you may get a Twitter to do nothing else but keep up with trending topics, you may not post a whole lot unless you decide you want to, but Twitter has a whole column of what is trending, I can't even say it, and the hashtag that you're supposed to use with it. So I think that in itself is very, very good, because you can go and look and you can see and it'll say recently trending or new trending, and you can go, oh, what's going on with P. Diddy, or whatever. But it helps you kind of keep up with that kind of stuff and keep in front of what's going on, so that your company looks like it's on top of things, and and you're having fun with it. If you see something going crazy about what color is this dress? You want to jump on there, and you're going to have to be a little creative with things. I mean, but you can still have fun with it. And
This might be about, don't do the ones with all the people giving stuff away.
oh, no,
all the
no,
time.
no. On Twitter,
On Facebook, everywhere.
I block all those people. I just did a post yesterday that I shared. Actually, a friend of mine who does marketing in Knoxville shared this great post on, I think he posted it on LinkedIn, and I shared it on Facebook, because it was about going behind the scenes and really deciding what ads you want to see on Facebook and what you don't want to see. And I didn't even know, we were down in the dungeon of Facebook. I'm talking down there, that I didn't even know existed. And I was like, I could actually pick and choose to see nothing or to see a few things. So it was, and if you're interested in it, let me know and I'll try to get it to you. But that was fascinating and very, very helpful for someone like me who I'm on there all the time, and I get sick of seeing all the ads for things. So it was good. Okay, so we talked about the calendar, and then talked about maybe using a platform if you're going to be using. If you're getting into this and you want to really do a lot of stuff out there, look at some of these platforms. They do have a cost associated with them, but if you're just kind of dabbling, don't worry about it. Has anybody used social media platforms for the posting? Sandy does. You guys use it too? Which one do you guys use or have you used?
I think Hootsuite is what.
Hootsuite, yeah. And Sandy, what do you guys, Hootsuite? What do you use?
Yeah, Hootsuite, the one caveat I would say with that, my wife kind of does that side of the thing, but it does save time if you're doing blasts to multiple social medias, but it kind of decreases the integrity of some of it, like on Twitter, if she's going to shoot it from Instagram and it goes to Facebook and Twitter, it doesn't show up as a big picture, it'll kind of compress it.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get the best look as you would.
And I noticed that with even sharing between, because LinkedIn has a component that's compatible with Twitter. And so if I find a neat picture that I want to post on LinkedIn, say, Martin Luther King Day, I did like a quote and I had a picture. But when it gave me the option to share it with Twitter, when it comes out on Twitter, it doesn't show up as the photo. It just shows up at the link. So it doesn't give you the full. So then I'm manually going and doing it anyway, because I really, again, pictures are what people want to see. If they see a link, they may or may not click on it, right? I mean, unless it's someone you trust, but the picture will show up and people will like it or share it. Okay, so I'm going to give you a copy of this, but it's hard to read because I blew it up too big, but it basically goes through a month, and you can each week come up with a theme if you wanted to. So if you had Valentine's week this week, you might want to do some fun things leading up to Valentine's, some fun posts, one or two. And you could, if you do a blog, which, anybody in here do blogs? I think that blogs are great. Blogs are very time consuming, anybody who does it. But if you can set your blog up where it kind of comes up on your website, it brings a lot of SEO to your website. So just kind of keep that in mind too. If you're designing a website or having one built, talk to the person building your platform about, and sometimes they're not called blogs, sometimes they're just news, but it does provide a lot of SEO and it can be really helpful. So it's a good thing. But this has got blog, Facebook, and Twitter, so that you could, if you post that day, you could go ahead and put what you're going to post right on there, so you could pull this up and look at it. And then you can keep it, and you can go to the next month and to the next month and go back. And then next year, when February rolls around again, you can pull last year's February calendar, and you can look and say, okay, well, this is what I did, this is what I did. And you may not want to do the same things, but if you look back on your page as well, you can see what your engagement was and say, well, that post did pretty well. So, and if you really wanted to get into it, you could pull print these out or put them on your computer, and you could actually write your engagement numbers right on here so that when you go back the next year, it'll give you a better idea of what was working and what wasn't. So if you did a series, say you did something fun for Valentine's Day, your good example could be you could give away, you know, an alteration or something every other day for till Valentine's Day or something, and you could do something kind of fun with hearts, you know, and then you could look, you know, and see what kind of engagement you got with it. So that could be kind of a fun, I think giving away things, giving people something, it creates some excitement and creates people, when you do it, you know, ask them to like, share, comment for an entry, things like that. And that creates your engagement as well. Any questions on this? I'm going to give you a copy of this. And then this is a little bit of, this is very concise about Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, and Google Plus on who's on it, what your audience is for. I've got a more detailed one here that has a lot of information. And this one's got Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, Pinterest, Snapchat, LinkedIn, and YouTube on here. I thought I had Instagram, but I guess I don't have Instagram on here. But we did talk about Instagram a little bit, so you are familiar with that. So Google Plus, that's one of those things that a lot of people aren't really active on, but you have to have a Google Plus account in order to be found on Google. So if you haven't set up your account, you need to do that. And that it hasn't really taken off like some of the other things do, but they've gotten better. If you go into Google Plus and look at how it's laid out now versus how it was a year ago, it's completely different. But still doesn't have the...
There's no real attraction to go in there and stay with you.
I think we're too old.
But
Do you think
yeah,
that? We're too old? It's for the young people. It's for those young people. Except I will tell you this, when I logged into my Google Plus account recently, the first name that popped up was my father's name. My father's 85. I'm like, what the heck is this? I'm like, does he have a Google Plus account? So I don't know. He's on Facebook, so maybe. So your website. I'm just going to talk about this briefly because we kind of went over websites. Make sure it's updated. Make sure that you know, if you have a blog or news section, that's the best part of engagement for your website. And updating photos and events. You don't want to go to a website that's just the same. There's nothing on there. There's no, and you know, if somebody has a calendar on their website of events and you go to it and there's nothing on there, you're like, is nothing going on? Or they just haven't updated it, you know? If you've got a calendar, update it. And, you know, bad for company PR not to have that kind of stuff updated, although it's extremely time consuming to do it. But, you know, that's where those teenagers can come in handy, maybe. Email marketing. Does anybody do email marketing? Do you use a platform? Mailchimp. Yeah. Yeah. I like Mailchimp too. I think that I don't think email marketing is dead. You read different things but you know, you've got to capture email addresses. You're supposed to get their permission to email them stuff as well. And you know, one thing that Mailchimp does really well is allows you to put people in buckets. So like I worked for a company in Knoxville and they had a Mailchimp account and they had like 1,800 names and addresses, but they were all just dumped in there. So I went in and categorized them on the type of business that they were, so that if I had a certain type of email to send out, I didn't want to just send it to everyone. I wanted to make sure I was targeting the right people. So that's one thing that email marketing will do. The other thing that's really important with email marketing is to have a catchy subject line. So and with Mailchimp, I love the fact that they allow you to test out your subject line on there, and you can put it in there, and they'll say, I don't like that. I mean, they'll come back and tell you whether to change it or not, which which is kind of good. So, and Mailchimp is free. So if you're a small business and you're wanting to do something like this, and they've got templates and it's free up to a certain
2,000, I think.
something, which is a lot. And even if you do a paid account, it can be like $30 a month. It's not that much, 30, 50, so it's definitely something worth looking into. I don't work for Mailchimp, so there's a lot of them out there. So I know there's Emma and there's Constant Contact, and I've worked with Exact Target. I mean, there's a lot of them out there. So you have to research which one is best for you. And but Mailchimp has done some changes lately. So when I went on there the other day, I was like, ooh, they've changed some things that I wasn't real happy with. But anyway, so again, I didn't talk about thought leadership with social media, but that was one thing that I think is really, really important, so that you put good information out there in front of the right people, and that's actually a good thing with the email marketing too, because you really can have a good audience. Now, they may not ever open your email, but if you've got a platform that you're using, you can go in and see who's opened it and how many times they've opened it and who've looked at it and even what time of day they opened it, that type of thing, which is not that is important, I guess, with email marketing, what time of day, but you can get all of that information. And so, that's the kind of stuff that I think is the most important. Is throwing it out there is one thing, but who's catching it and who's really biting it and looking at it, and that's where you can really dig into the background and find out. And I love to really be strategic when I do things like that. And I think that anybody who is in your time is limited and your money is limited, so why not do it right the first time if you can? And finding content is really important. I tell small businesses all the time that if they wanted to do like a quarterly newsletter or something on email, that it's really, there's usually a good audience out there if you've got the right email list. So, but you got to have good content too and stuff that they want to look at. The other thing is so you're in a great small community. Not only just have your content, but go ahead and post. Hey, we know that this nonprofit is having this event. Contact that nonprofit and say, hey, do you mind if I post your event on my website or on my email or social media? And I guarantee you they're probably going to say go for it. But if you contact them, they usually will be like, hey, please do it. But it's a nice thing to do, a nice gesture.
Just for the record, if anyone needs something like that, see me afterwards, I'll help you. We've got an event coming up.
Do you?
Yeah.
See, you never know. But that's good because you can probably send them the information, and then they're getting the correct links and all of that, and then they could be put on your email list if you have it, or so that they could get it, and then they could share it. So it can be a perfect marriage with things like that.
Speaking of which, sharing is something that I do. I'll find, you'll put something out there of an event coming up, I'll share it.
That would be wonderful.
That's a good way.
Yeah, so we were talking about nonprofits and sharing information. So we're for the people at home and their jammies listening. So that's a good point. That's a good point. And I do think you have a different perspective, perhaps, than some of the people who are paid businesses trying to promote things. He's from the American Red Cross, right? But your money and your resources are limited as well. Your time is extremely limited too. So any help that you can get getting information out there is I'm sure appreciated.
Gary McGow's got a big list that he sends out to Bristol organizations because, how many of you all found out about the new knowledge sessions from Gary's? I raised my case.
So Gary, you, okay. I'll talk to you afterwards.
I hear that from a lot of women.
It's a frisky guy, isn't he? Yay! All right, I'll talk to you in front of other people, the witnesses. All right, so this is what I was kind of touching on a minute ago, is using your analytics, understand what you're putting out there, and understand who's reading it. You know, you want to be in front of the right people, and we all get so much email, right? I mean, don't you? But what makes you click on something to open it?
Either the catchy title or if there's a picture or something that is of interest.
And what about if it's from a trusted business associate or friend? Are you more likely to open it as well?
Yes.
Okay, that is something that I try to get across to people all the time. So, say I work for a company. Oh, well, I do work for a company, but say, you know, we're going to pretend here, and I have a monthly newsletter, okay, and I send it out to all these people. So, there's people on my staff who have given me their email list and shared it, right? But if there's something particular in that newsletter that, like an event or something that's going on that somebody's client might be really interested in, I think it's really important for them to know what's in that newsletter, because I might be thinking, you know what, what's your name? Sam might really be interested in this event. And if he gets it from me because he trusts me, then he's probably going to open it, and he might be willing to come to that event or whatever. So to me, putting it in front of the right person, from the right person, is important too. So while I do think it's important to send out newsletters from a company, I also think it's very important when you work on a staff that they know what's the content in there, because they got to be thinking. They should always be thinking, wow, I've got a client who this would fit. I've got a customer who would really be interested in this. I'm going to forward this to them. And so people don't do that enough. They don't take the time. They don't take, but one little thing like that can make a huge difference. And whether someone attends something or maybe donates or gives blood. Do you guys do blood here? Yeah. I think you got my phone number. I keep getting called all the time. I'm like, the vampires are after me again. But I have O negative blood, so they love me. Yes, I'm a universal blood donor, so I'm getting called all the time. So look at your data, track your engagement, look at your posts and your content, and what people have read, what has engaged people, and what works for you may not work for you or may not work for you. There's no one size fits all. So that's where you have to go out and kind of test the waters a little bit and kind of see. It sounds like you guys do quite a bit of stuff where you are, and I like to set. And here I talked about looking at ads. I don't think there's anything wrong with looking at, like, in the ads, playing with them a little bit, seeing, set your limits on it. And I like to set goals when you're first starting things out, So if you're going to give yourself, say if you started a Facebook business page tomorrow, set yourself an achievable goal to have so many followers by the end of the year, and make sure that it's not astronomical, that it's not something that you can't do, because you set the goal so that you can achieve it, not so that you can achieve it, but at the end of the year you're going to feel bad, So set it. Say if you say I want 250 followers, and say you achieve that goal by September 1st instead of December. Then set another goal, because maybe you're doing the right things. Or maybe by September, you're not on track to make that goal. You need to reevaluate what you're doing, and maybe start doing some paid things, or find that teenager that needs a part-time job. But there's, I do think this is the most important part of it. Just throwing stuff out there is not going to work for anybody. And so this is a lot of stuff we've already talked about. Your ROI, posting ahead of time, your demographics, know what they are. Negative comments. I hear this from people all the time when I talk to companies or talk to people about getting on social media. They're like, oh, what if somebody posts something negative? Well, what if they do? That's the perfect opportunity for you to address things because people are gonna say something. The haters are gonna hate, right? But this is a perfect opportunity to address it, and you don't have to address it online. Don't go in a Twitter war or something with somebody, but just make it an opportunity for someone to, so you can contact that person and make it right if you own a business. You don't want anybody unhappy out there, and you especially don't want anybody that's slamming your business. And so it's an opportunity to make it right, because if you don't go on social media and they don't have an opportunity to say something, then you may not even be aware of what is going on. And it may be something with another office or, you have no idea. The other thing is when you do your Facebook, you can set your settings, most of you already know this, I'm sure, so that the comments don't show up, that the comments go into like a messaging type thing. So it's not right. But it still gives you an opportunity to address it, and you still need to address it. I am all about picking up the phone or whatever you need to do to call someone and make it right, or try to make it right. And I'll tell you a funny story about that. Are we doing okay on time? So I was on Twitter, and I took my husband and I took our family to the baseball stadium, Smokies in Knoxville. And my husband's retired Navy, and we got up there and I had my husband, anyway, there was about 8 of us. And I don't have 8 kids, but there was a bunch of us. And I wanted the military discount, and they refused to give me the military discount. It was something really, really ridiculous. And it wasn't a lot of money, but it was, So I sat down in my seat, and I just tweeted about it. I got a Twitter response from the general manager like that. And they contacted me and whatever, but it was just like, whoa, they were monitoring that closely, because I was sitting in the stands. I was like, my son lives in Hong Kong, and he got put into this hotel, got kind of bumped up and ended up getting put into this really nice hotel. And he did the same thing. He took a picture of his room and said, hey, look at this upgrade that I just got. And he tweeted. And not even 15 minutes later, he said there was a knock on the door with a huge gift basket from the hotel thanking him for tweeting. So those are just 2 things actually personally I know happen, but there's millions of those things out there. But that's just, people are real-time, live, and if you're looking at things, everybody's on their mobile, looking at stuff. So you can turn something negative into something positive. So we talked about nonprofits. We talked about industry events. Google Alerts. Does anybody do that? Good. If you don't do that, you probably should consider doing that. Go onto Google. You can just search Google Alerts. Set up any words that you want, and they'll come up, and you can kind of keep up with your industry and kind of keep up with what's going on with trends and things like that. And that's a great way to find stories to share too. So especially like regional things that are going on, and of course around the world as well. You can put any words. And if you haven't set up a Google alert for your own name, you probably should do that. Just saying. Just saying.
Your name or your business?
Both. Do it for both. And that way, if something's out there or something, if you have a little unusual name, definitely do it. If your name's Bob Smith, it might be kind of hard. You're going to get a lot of stuff. I encourage people to attend trainings and networking events and things like that. Exchange business cards. Don't be afraid when you sit down and introduce yourself to people. Always, have your shirt on. Talk to people. That's part of. I may not need your business now, but you never know who I might run into who might, and vice versa. We all want to help each other out. And if you have a name tag, wear it. I don't have a name tag, but I just ordered some.
I will add one other there is I would get involved with community and volunteer.
Volunteer.
In my experience, that's been one of the greatest things, not only being blessed to be on the board of Red Cross, but other things, because I'm able to access You get in front of people that I normally wouldn't, like the editor of the paper.
You're right.
So get involved in your community. Not only do they need your help, but it's also good for you.
It is. And like-minded people, so if you go and, shovel dog poop out of the Humane Society thing with somebody, that's a bonding experience, let's face it, right? But you know that person loves dogs too,
So
right?
But if you're in a for-profit business, and sometimes the nonprofits have got little social deals, pizza nights, or sponsors or something like that. Sometimes it only costs a couple $100, and you can be a sponsor and get much more recognition than you would otherwise get if you didn't, and it's fairly inexpensive.
Yeah.
It's a better way to, a very
We passed
cost-effective way to promote your business.
Yeah, it's a very cost-effective way, and it's partnering with the community. There are, there's about 250 nonprofits in the Bristol, Abington area, so there's plenty of choices.
That's really good. And do you have a website, or what do you have that?
I'm with Bristol Organizations.
And you keep track of all that, right?
Yeah, we
Okay.
have a list of membership, and we meet quarterly,
And there's a leadership, I would imagine, or leads.
lead Bristol, you mean?
I would imagine around. Is there one in Washington County, and there's someone?
County Chamber, you guys have one, don't you?
Because that's another great place to meet people as well, and to really to.
And, Nita, don't you guys have a breakfast or a lunch?
We do. We have a breakfast. It starts in March and we'll be running through November.
Yeah, Chamber of Commerce in Bristol has what they call First Friday business breakfast or business briefing, and it's free, and they get 250 people there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
So, what other questions? Anybody have any other questions? We're passing around some of my cheat things now. Oh, a love note. Thank you. The teacher's pet. Yeah, that's right. McDonald's would have done. We're all good? Any questions online, Sandy?
Just that the folks online wanted to get an electronic copy of your presentation and also your calendar.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can get that, then I've had them email me if they want a list.
Right. That'll be great, and you can get it to me.
Any latest trends that you have in terms of the, like Twitter and Snapchat and all the other different entities that they're coming to? In terms of latest media, just like Facebook had been, and then you had Twitter, and then you ended up with Snapchat and Instagram and all that stuff, and they're still moving.
Yeah, they are.
Quote, latest come in yet, or have you seen one that's
I
starting to
haven't, but
pop
really,
up?
I think all of these social channels is based on your industry and where your audience is, and that's one of the biggest challenges for anybody is to identify where your audience is. If you are a florist, for example, probably Facebook is where you want to be because the folks that you're trying to connect to. But if you're going after the young, if your demographics is a more younger, let's see, someone's here from Harley Davidson. You might be looking for people that are on Twitter or Instagram or, even Pinterest. They're looking for vacation packages and they're trying to figure out where they want to go and they maybe want to, I don't know if you rent equipment or motorcycles, but any of that.
This will help you a little bit break all that down. I found this on Pinterest. So I think that it kind of breaks it down as to who's, what your audience is and what you need to do and if it's right for you. So what it says about Facebook on here, though, it says it's considered the best social media for brands. And basically everybody needs to be on it. Every brand can benefit from having a Facebook page is what it says. And I really struggled when I was looking at that. I was like, can I think of somebody who wouldn't benefit? And I really couldn't think of any, so where, Pinterest is definitely about fashion and food and things like that. And so this kind of breaks it down. Twitter's one of those things that I get on Twitter to really look at trends and to really kind of, have, fun and kind of engage with But I don't,
I like Twitter if you're into like like when the Grammys were going on.
Oh, yeah.
Or any of those kind of things, because it's some great things to hear and feedback from other folks.
If you ever wanna have a-
Adele's mic went bad the other night.
right. And if you're ever having a really boring night, switch on The Bachelor on TV and go to Twitter. Man, you will, they blow up Twitter talking about things. It's hilarious.
Twitter is outstanding for searching real-time stuff too.
Yes, it
I
is.
use it, I don't really go there, but I search on Twitter.
There's where your trends, they come up like that.
Yeah.
So that's where you can go and go, oh, what is going on with that? And then if you wanted to correlate it with something. So when you have your calendar, create your calendar. You can go for a whole year because you know that Christmas is always going to be on this day and that Easter is going to be on this day. Create your calendar, but then you can go in and fill in some other things and then keep up with what's trending. So if you pull up on a Tuesday and you're like, there's really nothing going on this week, it's kind of slow and I don't have a lot to post this week and there's no holiday, you could say, I'm going to look up on Twitter and see what's trending and maybe, jump on some hashtags or do something kind of fun with it. So keep up with the movies that are coming out and just the things like that. That's try to relate it somehow to what you're doing. Even if it's a stretch, like I did compressors with Star Wars. Come on, but it worked. So you got to do what you got to do when you're marketing your business. So so we're all good.
Yes. How about a hand for Sid?
Thank y'all. Oh, I've got some stuff to give away. Did everybody give? No, I didn't got everybody's business cards. Does anybody not have?
We don't have one yet.
Why don't you just rip me up a sheet? Here, take mine. Write your name on mine.
Okay.
And we will.
And I passed around a survey sheet, I don't know where it's at, but if y'all could just finish passing it around.
And while you're doing that little promo for our next New Knowledge, which will be March the 16th, it will be on website design do's and don'ts, which kind of falls in what you were talking about today. And just go, follow us on Facebook, and we've got a lot of great things. And one of the things we want with that evaluation, if there's other new knowledge sessions that you want us to include, next month, in April, we're going to start planning our, starting in June through next year's sessions. So let us know what you want. We're doing this for you all, and you can't beat the price. And,
That's right.
If you've missed one that we've done before, I encourage you to go to YouTube and follow us on our New Knowledge channel. We've got today will be 41 sessions that have been live streamed and they're videos.
That's amazing.
So you can go watch them on at your time. We're the only organization and group in the state of Virginia that's doing anything like this.
Isn't that amazing? I really have to applaud you guys because I have lived in 10 different states, and I think I've told you this before that I've never seen this type of engagement and free.
And we're doing this for you all, so that's why those evaluations.
It's huge.
If you don't know, we've also, in addition to the partnership that my organization's done with the Chamber and the Incubator, we've also recently partnered with the Virginia Highlands Community College, their workforce development. Melinda unfortunately had to leave early, but if there's something that we're not offering and you need more training, like the last session that we had was on Google or QuickBooks Online. We had some folks wanted more in-depth, and they can develop a program, a training series that can help you and get more in-depth on those kind of sessions.
Good.
So we have to know it, though. You can't just be wishing and not tell us.
Wishing and hoping. Okay.
And thank you, Cindy.
Oh, yes, and I've got some Bristol coffee mugs to give away. So everybody give me your card. Who wants to? Oh.
Cards yet. So you can just read and pull.
I know I don't have a bucket either. I'll just throw them in here. Okay. Brian, let's slide this down to Brian. We're going to do it the real classy way. And what's your name? Donna.
Did everybody get a survey?
And, with the cutest business card ever. And what's your name?
Fetching Apparel.
Oh, what's your name?
My name's Derek.
Derek.
Give 40% to local animal rescues for.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
I love it. The who's a chiropractor? Oh, I got a thing. All right, Kevin. Awesome. All right, Steve. I was going to throw it at you, but I saw that wasn't being very nice. You wish. Did you hear that? Jelena? All right. Must be my business cards were lucky because you guys wanted my business cards. All right. Thank you for coming, you guys. Appreciate it. And feel free to look me up on social media.
Question.
Who?
I was wondering if we could all introduce ourselves.
Yes.
Yes, of course. I don't know anyone. I'm like, okay.
I don't know anyone either.
Okay, let's start down here and we'll go around and introduce yourself. Is that like absurd?
I'm Sam Swinney. I'm the park manager up New River Trail, Withfield.
I'm Amy Atwood. I work with Virginia State Parks, the ones in Southwest Virginia.
And you guys do a lot of social media stuff. I can't wait to go in there and look and see.
I share your stuff too and didn't know it.
Awesome.
Yay!
A hidden supporter.
There you go.
Okay.
I'm Donna Howe, and I'm starting a new equine assisted living program for kids and corporations. And this is my executive assistant,
Jelena Wilson.
Jelena.
I'm Caitlin Brickey, and I'm the marketing director of Black Bear Harley Davidson
Where's
in Whitfield.
help me? North?
North, yes.
Okay. I'm new to the area. I'm like,
Derek Pepin, co-owner of Fetching Apparel, local company right here in Abingdon, primarily sell online. 40% of our profits go to local animal shelters, and we sell people clothes. Our dog is a rescue from a local shelter.
yes, I have 4 rescue dogs, so
awesome.
yes, I'm a sucker. There I'm doing the puppies and kittens again.
Yeah.
Okay, Brian Plank, I'm with Haven of Rest Rescue Mission in Bristol. We help with the homeless and the hungry in the area. I'm development and community relations.
Great.
He's the new guy.
Yes.
How about back here? Nita?
I'm Nita Plum, with the Washington County Chamber of Commerce.
My name is Bill Brunell, and I'm the new executive director for the Red Cross. And I'm new too. I'm only in Virginia about 90 days now.
Oh.
Enjoying this winter weather.
Absolutely.
Came from California.
Oh, you came from California? I'm from Florida, so I totally get it.
I'm Gina Nippon, and I have a decorative painting business that
Oh.
I'm rejuvenating now. I have 2 small children, and now they are in school and going, and I have
You have what business?
I don't do painting, so I can come in and do color consultations, just paint interiors, just any painting, murals, faux finishes, apply textures, things like that.
I like your business cards too. Really cute. Really, really cute. Awesome.
My name is Kyle Craig. I'm actually here wearing 2 hats. I've got a computer business here in town in Abingdon, but I'm learning this to help the Abingdon's Veterans of Foreign War Post 1994. And we're trying to get geared up on this, and it's a bunch of older guys trying to suck in some of the younger guys. But
Here we go with the whole age thing again.
there's some chiropractor guys in the post, and so's Derek.
Great.
My name's Kevin Borntrugger, new to the area as well, opened a structural chiropractic clinic downtown Abingdon, just opened about 3 weeks ago.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Steve Willinger, I'm a realtor with Highlands Realty.
Turn around, Steve. Wave.
Please call me.
I knew he was going to do. Here's a shameless plug.
I'm Gary McGow. I'm with Bristol Organizations. We are an organization made up of nonprofits in the Northeast Tennessee, Southwest Virginia area. We meet quarterly and we talk about nonprofit stuff.
Awesome.
Great. I'm Sherry Brown. I just started a business called Threadables. We do custom quilting and clothing alterations.
Great.
We do.
Thank you, guys.
I'm a rescue dog. Oh, awesome.
Yay. Yay. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here.
Jennifer?
Oh,
I'm Jennifer Davidson. I work for Virginia Small Business Incorporated.
great.
And if people don't know who I am, I'm Sandy Ratliff. I'm with the Virginia Department of Small Business and Supplier Diversity, and my office is one of the wetlands and the incubator. But I serve 23 counties offering a startup and sales growth mentoring. So, and lead this and the Washington County Challenge.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming and taking time out of your day to listen. Appreciate it.